This episode has a transcript. Go to bit.ly/read_TTT. This podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land it is produced on, the Darug and Guringai peoples in particular. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded. It's this concept of creating slowly, but the thing with that is that, like, you might think about it and be like, well, writing one line of a book every single day isn't going to get me a book. It will, but it'll take you until the day you turn into ash and dust and crumble into oblivion. But that's not the truth of it, because the fact is that you'll write a line a day for a few days, or even one day, and then you'll be like very inspired. You'll blast out like a whole page because you want to do it. You're listening to These Trying Times. Creative motivation and inspiration from a bit of a different angle. I'm Eamon Connolly. I was reading this blog post from one of my favorite note apps lately, talking about this concept of writing every day and doing projects that you can complete, like deciding the scope of your project based on, can I complete that today? And so I think that really ties in with what this podcast idea is, which is done in the most efficient way possible that it can be produced and made to sound really good with as little effort and as little time as possible. And that post really spoke to me in how I like to create things and how I've always sort of made things. It's always sort of organically matched the time that I have in a way. When I was like 15 and making music in my bedroom, avoiding high school while doing the HSC, trying not to think about it, I'd have like this good like 5-hour period of like isolation and like just making beats in my music and really focusing on music production and like really getting into it. And it's hard to find like 4 hours, 5 hours of like heavy concentration as an adult in the waking world. When you have access to the internet, for one, which I didn't when I was 15, like a dial-up, that's not the internet, that's nothing. What can you do with that? Nothing. Send an email. So like now, having access to the internet to some extent and plenty of time, it's really hard to find 4 or 5 hours of concentration to focus on something. The scope of a thing really like has to match what you're able to do if you want to like regularly complete anything. And I think completing things is a really important aspect of making anything, because when you don't complete it, you get to the stage where you're going to be questioning yourself, and you stop and you live in that moment forever. And it's really hard. And having like made music and a lot of different creative things for a long time, that moment is really hard to live in constantly when you know you haven't completed anything in a long time. And even though like it's all valid practice, everything is valid as far as like advancing yourself and getting better at things or learning new things, it's really hard not to look at that stuff and just see all the half-made things that you've done and say, I guess that's just me and that's what I make. Because it's not. You can complete things and you can finish things and you can have work that you're really proud of. And it's important to do that and call things done at a certain point. And so I think this podcast idea kind of reflects that of like, here's something I can do for 10 minutes almost every day. And I hope if anyone is listening to this, that you got at least one thing from it and maybe a little inspiration to go and do your small thing every day, and then very rapidly and intensely for 5 hours at a time. I'll see you on the next one. You're listening to These Trying Times. This show is produced by me, Eamon Connolly, with production assistance from Angel Fauchelevent.